Good afternoon, everybody. I hope everybody's well and blessed today. And I want you to know that God is good all the time, and all the time, God is good. Hey, we're living some tough times. It's precarious out here, uncharted, unprecedented waters that we're in. But the blessing is Jesus is the same yesterday, today, and forevermore. And God is that God which was and is going. God is on the throne. God's in control, and we got to trust Him even when it doesn't make sense. And honestly, sometimes things in life may not make sense. Some things are very weird, very strange. These are weird times we're living in. So much is happening, I believe, in the spiritual realm, things that we're unaware of. Everything, part of our life, our lives are affected now. I mean, spiritually, economically, educationally, vocationally, professionally, from a culinary perspective, you name it, everything's been turned topsy-turvy as a result of this pandemic. But through it all, we believe if we hold to the unchanging hand of God, as my grandfather would say, everything's going to be all right. And so I just want to encourage and challenge you today that everything is fine. It will be well. And even though when it doesn't seem like you should believe that, be encouraged. It's okay to feel weird. It's okay to have questions. Sometimes people say you shouldn't have questions. I don't know where to get that from. When you read the Bible is filled with questions. And to be honest with you, if God is not big enough to handle your questions, you serve a real small God. We serve a God who wants us to be in a relationship. And as we're in a relationship, sometimes we do have questions and just ask them. Today we are here because I'm excited. So much is going on, and I'm excited about the opportunity to minister and technologically and digitally and through our virtual ministry here. And I want to share something with you that we've heard a lot about social distancing in this whole pandemic. It's a weird time. Can't gather in mass groups. Malls are closed. Restaurants are closed. Entertainment establishments are closed. Everything is just weird. Mayor of Atlanta just signed an executive order to make sure that we're shut up for 14 days. The president just talks about trying to open the country up by Easter. Another topic, another session for another day. Don't want to get in on that right now. But with this whole thing of social distancing, how does it affect our lives? And what's the difference between social distancing and loneliness? I've been having a lot of conversations with a lot of our singles, and we have a lot of people who moved here from different parts of the country. Their families are back home, and social distancing is hard on people when you have people in the house with you. And the question is, how does it feel when you are in the home by yourself and your family lives somewhere else? What does it feel like when you can't get out, can't mix, can't mingle? What's happening during this time? And I'm excited that we have some wonderful, wonderful people who are going to be sharing with us today. We have Derek Brown, he's a graduate of Morehouse College and Emory University. He is a thinker. He is in the medical field. He has a great sense of background in terms of medicine and faith. He's a single brother who loves God and who's going to offer a lot of perspective to us today. We have Kanisha McSwain, who's from Illinois. She's from the Chicagoland area. She is a graduate of Spelman College. She is a thinker. She is a blogger. She is an entertainment host. She's phenomenal in her own right. And she has a psychological background as well. Grew up in the church. Father's a pastor. Just has a dearth of information. We also have Crystal Lee, who's here with us, who's an entrepreneur. She's a graduate of Clark Atlanta. She is the co-host of the Willie Moore Jr. Show. She's done a lot of incredible, amazing things across the nation, and we're glad to have people of this caliber who are going to come and share. It's going to be a great time of conversation, and so I want you to submit your questions. We're gonna have some fun and just kind of pick and learn from each one of them and see what they're feeling and just pick their minds and see can we get some strength and some help and some encouragement during these terrible times. So I'm just gonna pass the ball and throw alley oops and let them slam dunk for the next hour or so. So we're gonna get started. I want to open up, of course, with our guest, was Crystal Lee. I've heard Crystal and Kanisha, but I want to open up with Crystal since you're the guest, Crystal. I'm gonna open up with you. The rest of the homebodies, I'm gonna open up with you. I heard you do a lot on the Willie Moore Jr. Show in terms of the same conversation we're having. As a matter of fact, you did something with our church recently with our Women in Pink, the round table. It was a great conversation. And I just want you to get to share about what's going on with you in terms of being here from Detroit, away from home. How are you managing, Crystal, being here as a single woman, trying to be an employee, trying to be an entrepreneur, trying to be a boss, but all these things have come and affected our lives. How are you managing this particular time, Crystal?
All right. So you want to be real tonight, or you want to be really
Uh,
real tonight?
hey, go hard or go home. There's only one way we can do
Yeah.
it.
Okay. So I'm gonna tell you the truth, Pastor. This
Yes.
has been very, very, very hard for me. Complete transparency. I actually broke up with somebody right before the world stopped.
Oh wow.
Okay,
Huh? Are you
somebody that
kidding
I
me?
love, somebody that I was like, I told you, I said, you want to get real, you want to get real.
Let's
Now
do
what you
it.
do?
I'm
You
on
broke up.
board. Let's do it.
You broke up right before everything went crazy.
Right before, okay,
Oh
I
my
didn't
goodness.
know. I literally had to say, now listen, this is somebody that I was like, this got to be the person for me. He loved God, he preacher, okay, let's get real. And his focus was ministry, and my focus is marriage, and that's what I want for my life. And so I said, you know what, I have to walk away for me. This is something that I have to do for me. And it's very funny because I feel like, the Lord has such a sense of humor, because I'm like, Lord, I don't want to be talking on no singles panels right now. I don't want to be dealing with all of this right now, but I feel like all of this has happened for me to share this story and to really impact other people and let them know that, you have to know your worth. You have to know that you are worthy of abundance. And for me, that was walking away from what was just good and what I felt wasn't God. And so this quarantine has been killing me. I still do radio from home. I don't get a chance to get out and about. I'm still grieving a breakup. And so that's something that I'm really leaning on God about, while still letting other women know. I'm very transparent on the radio. I'm very transparent with my community, Girl Plus God, and letting them know that you got to choose you. You got to choose you. And so it's a lot of us who don't want to be lonely right now. It's a lot of us who don't want to deal with heartbreak, especially when the world is going crazy. But your girl is here dealing with it. Every single day I'm dealing with it. Every single day I'm just like, Lord, I know you're going to get me through. And so, even today when I got the call to do this, I'm like, here you go again, Lord. Here you go again. Here you go again.
Well,
But,
let me ask you this, Chris.
I'm going to keep it real. Just let you know.
Let
Right.
me play devil's advocate for 1 second. Do you think you were being premature? Do you think you could have given a brother a little more time? Do you think you gave him enough time? Men, we're so slow. You guys mature much faster than we do. Do you think he needs some more maturation? Do you think it was fear? Do you think you put some undue expectations on him? Did you give him enough time to get himself together? Did you give him a warning, or did you just cut him because you thought it wasn't going the
Mm-mm.
way you want to go on your timeline? Let's be honest now. So I want to know: did you give him a
Let me
warning shot? Based on
Let
what
me
you
tell
just
you,
right
because
before y'all.
I'm
All
literally
right.
telling y'all all of my business right now. Okay, I'm giving you all my business right now. This is a House of Hope exclusive. Okay,
Let-
Okay.
I
I like it. I
literally
like it.
am.
I like it.
The crazy part about all of this is, for somebody who said, I want to focus on ministry, and then the world will
Wow.
stop, and right now nobody even knows what to do in their ministry. And so I'm wanting to be
Wow.
like, let me help you, let me be there for you. And I can't, because I
Right.
made the decision to choose myself and to walk away. You got to know that I'm going crazy every single day. You got to know that I'm leaning on God like never before every single day, because I
Right.
want to be like, no, maybe I did make the wrong decision, but I felt like it was time for me to choose me, and that there was something that God had for me. But I needed to let God write my love story. And if he is the one, then he gonna figure it out, the quarantine or not. But right now I'm like, I
Has
gotta
he
be okay with being single.
has he reached out to you? Has he reached out to you in all this?
Pastor, he blind.
He
He can't
blocked.
reach out.
Come on, Krista. Come on. I mean, the Holy Ghost, God don't block us. My God. Come on now.
Oh
Unblock your brother in
shit.
Jesus' name, and
Yeah,
lift your hand and
chief.
tell God, thank you.
That, that
I speak a
ain't
I
no
speak an
right.
unblock anointing on your life right now. Now, take that unblock button off in Jesus' name, and let that brother get
Oh
through.
shit.
Let him get through, Krista.
Oh,
Let him get
this is
through, Krista.
weird.
My God.
Oh man, that was my laugh for the day. That's my laugh for the
K- Kanisha, let me ask you something. I'm gonna move you right quick. I'm coming back to you. I'm coming back to you in a minute, Krista. Kanisha, I know
You can
you've gone through
stay with
something.
Kanisha. Stay with Kanisha.
Oh, I'm coming back in a minute. I'm coming back in a minute because I feel something right there. Kanisha, I know, I've known you a long time since you moved as a freshman and seen your journey. So proud of you. And I know you were raised in the house, in the church with a very strong father who you adored. And I know recently he passed away after an extended illness. And I want to ask you this because I think sometimes I've watched your story. Sometimes you run into some journeys with some knuckleheads because your dad was a strong guy and a man's man, and a husband and a father. And my question to you today, I wanted you to dig deep because I know you're looking for a man, to make decisions, to be decisive. And I want to know, do you think have there been times that you thought that you were looking for the strength of your dad in Frank McSwain, and because you haven't necessarily seen that in others, that you refuse, like Crystal, to settle for something else? What has been your experience here in Atlanta dating as a strong, independent, strong-willed, got your own stuff woman who is like Crystal, doesn't want any foolishness, and you prioritize yourself? Are you being unfair with your expectations because you want everybody to be Frank McSwain?
As my dad. And my dad took me on dates when I was in kindergarten. He picked me up from kindergarten every day and took me on dates. And he would literally say, BJ, let me get the door. A guy should get the door for you, BJ. Let daddy get the chair. Now daddy's gonna pay for the food. I mean, this is since kindergarten.
Right.
So my entire life, even when he was sick and walking slowly and I get to doors before him, he would say, I'm still your dad. Like, you can wait till I can get there and get the door. So I learned early on to look at him like he was my dad. And his expectations and what he taught me should be the utmost level of how he expects for a man to be, right? But I also know, especially within our community and the men that I date, excuse me, this is my dog, he's here.
What's going on,
Um,
Dobie?
I know that in the men that I date in my community, I know that there's often a lack of that same kind of nurturing and teaching to men. The way that we
Right.
teach our women how to be treated, we don't often have the same experiences for our men to be taught how to do that. And so I had to learn, especially in college, I think it was my wake up call that just because a guy doesn't necessarily automatically open the door and automatically do all of these, gentleman things, A, doesn't mean that they're not a great guy. And B, it doesn't mean that if it's something I actually want in a relationship, that he can't learn how to do it for me. So I learned a long time ago to kind of, I don't know, manage my dad's expectations
Right.
of what he had for me and what he taught me I should have. A lot of it
Right.
I totally agree with from him. Just being a man, as far as taking care of your family, loving your woman, making your children feel, like they're supported, being a man of the community, being a man of God, all of these things that he taught me, a lot of them, they're deal breakers for me. Like, you either got it or you don't, right? But some of
Right.
the extra stuff, like the sugar on top, I do feel like, coming from where I come from, it's very, very easy to just walk past the guy because he, doesn't open the door for you, and I'm not even a woman that really needs that too. That's another thing. Like, the older I got, the more I'm like, do I really need him to open every door?
Right.
No.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Right.
Like, it's
Right.
cute and it's nice and I appreciate the gesture, but it's not something I
Right.
need you to pump my gas every time. I don't want to go to the gas station. Okay.
Right.
So that's not what I need,
Hello?
and so
Right.
I think that I learned as I got older to kind of manage my dad's baby girl in my head at all times and the woman that
Right.
I am today. And there have
Wow.
been times I've dated guys that he didn't appreciate. And he took me to breakfast the last time that was a situation and looked me in my face and he's like, "Is this what you want?" Like, and I'm like,
Wow.
"Yeah," and I'm no longer with
Right.
that person. But he left room for me to kind of make those decisions. But he also made it his point to get to know the men that I dated, like on a personal level. And so even if I'm kind of presenting that I don't need these things, I know behind my back he's telling them that he expects these things, which,
Right.
since you brought him up in this conversation, it's also kind of what I'm facing now, which is my dad won't shake the hand of the man that I will be with. He won't get to look him in the
Right.
eye and know the type of guy that raised me. He'll know from what he hears from everybody, but it meant
Right.
something for me, for my, the guys that I dated, to know him, because then they would know what he
Right.
expected. So
Let me
it
ask
definitely
you this
took
question.
some maturing.
Let me ask you this question, Kanisha. Um, is it your assumption that that man is supposed to know these things that your dad taught you? How do you feel? Do you feel okay as a woman actually teaching a man the things that you expect, or sharing those things, or should those things be already known by him. I want to get your opinion on that. Is there potential for a man to grow and for you to help him to grow and learn to become how to love you, or do you just cut them off when you don't see the qualities that you're looking for?
Well, I think being from marriage, my parents would have been married 40 years this year. My grandparents were married for 67 years. All my aunts and uncles, I'm from marriage. So I have a more
Right.
realistic, I think, view of marriage than a lot of my friends and even guys I've dated. Sometimes people
Okay.
romanticize it. And what
Right.
I've learned is that my parents were always teaching one another throughout their marriage
Gotcha.
what they need,
Right.
you know?
That's dope.
Gotcha.
And so I'm more than willing to do that because that's the example I've watched them adjust themselves here and there, for however the
Gotcha.
person changed over time.
Gotcha.
So I'm okay with that, but there are some core things, right?
Gotcha.
That my dad taught me that I think are absolutely accurate. He would always say, "How does he treat you when he's mad?" He would say, "BJ,
Gotcha.
because even when I'm disappointed in you, I discipline you differently than I discipline your brother. How does he
Gotcha.
treat you when he's mad? You know, um, does he make the effort to take care of you guys? Meaning,
Gotcha.
does he
I
make
want to
the
come
effort
back.
to?"
I want you to think about a list in a moment because I want you to give your list in a moment. I come back to you in a moment. I want you to think about
Okay.
it. Give you a moment to think about those things. And once I come back from Crystal, I'm coming to you. Derek,
Oh,
your situation is kind of similar to both of them because I see there's a little thread between all three. Derek, you were dating somebody and you thought you were going to be engaged to them. You're going to get married. It didn't work. And then you were getting ready to talk to somebody else and you were getting serious with them. And that person passed away on you. So you had two
right.
serious relationships. There, one didn't work. The next one you were
Right.
getting into, and prior to, taking it to the next level, the person passed away. And I think it's kind of got you in a quandary. How are you dealing with that right now about being single, and how do you get beyond those two relationships and
Oh man.
heartbreaks?
Well, they were pretty far spaced apart. The first one was somebody
Okay,
I actually met. We didn't intend to date, but it was somebody that it kind of grew organically. We were kind of friends first for a little while, and getting over that took a lot out of me. I really took my butt back to church a lot more. I realized the more hurt I am, the more I find a way to lean on God more. And my
okay,
sister knows when I'm hurt because she'll be quoting a whole lot of Bible for no reason, right? She's like, "Oh, what's wrong with you? Something wrong with you, boy." And I'm just like,
right,
"Yeah, you're right. Something wrong with me." Um, so it took me a long time to get over it, but I had to allow myself the time to heal, and I had to acknowledge I had a lot of bad habits that I had learned from my youth to cope with my pain. And a lot of that I had to deal with just over time and with a lot of tears. Sometimes people think that healing is you just up and you good the next day and you just in the gym and you working and you bury yourself in work. Sometimes healing comes with a lot of tears. Um, it's rarely about the other person. Your healing and what you discover is 99.9% of the time about you.
yeah,
And wherever happens there. So the second time when that person passed, and I finally got to this place where she was a pillar in my life. We had known each other for so long, and for me, it was devastating to see her pass away, and it was sudden.
wow,
It was quick. Um,
wow,
and so to have this, what felt like being ripped away in an instant, was
mm,
something that I had to really kind of absorb. It was a shock. I didn't want to believe it at first.
mm,
Again, it knocked me on my butt, and I really had to learn what it was like to live without her.
wow,
And for me, you never really, I still miss people to this day who have passed away, but
right,
I've learned how to honor them by the way that I live. There are some mornings where I get up to come to work and I don't want to come, but I know good and doggone well that, these people would never want me to not live a full life, to not do the best that I could. She knew all my dreams and aspirations. Um, and she would even send me stuff if she went to the doctor or like I wanted to be a chaplain. I wanted to be a licensed counselor, all this stuff. And I was already working in mental health. And she was just like, she would send me stuff like, this is the contract you're going to have to create when you have your own practice, LOL. And,
wow,
just stuff like that, that kind of let me know that she was really behind me with these things. And so for
wow,
a long time, I had to really wrestle with that sense of emptiness because she filled that space in me. Um,
yeah,
And so she still encourages me to this day, because there are
Wow.
days I don't want to come to work, but there are days I get up
Right.
because I'm like, you know what? I had people who were investing in me for a long time, and I'm not going to disappoint their memory. I'm just not.
It's
I'm not gonna
amazing
take
how
her
this.
back.
It's amazing how it's coming together, because it seems like there's almost a common thread of grief and pain, even though it's a
Mm,
different level of grief. From Crystal to KK to you, all of you are dealing with some level of hurt that you're still kind of processing. I think yours even is more intensified sometimes too, because when I look at all of your bios, there you are a minister and you are a single
mm,
minister in the church, and I know
right.
that presents its own set of challenges. You want to talk about that for a moment,
Yeah.
bro?
Look, it's so interesting because I was watching the show. I was listening to a show. I think Crystal Lee. I forgot. I think it may have been you though. It
It
may not
wasn't
have been.
me.
I listened to y'all show, man. I'm a fan of the show. Um, but there's this perception, and it may not have been you. I'm not sure, but there's this perception that if a woman is single, it's not her fault, right? But if a man is single, he doing it on purpose,
Hmm.
Right.
right? And I'm just like, you know what I'm saying? Like I'm not out here
Right.
spinning my wheels or dipping in and out of everybody's house. I ain't messing with the congregation. I'm not doing no foolishness. But it's this perception that almost I'm doing it on purpose, which is amazingly irritating to me. Like the question of
Wow.
why aren't you married yet? What's going on with you? What are you doing? And I'm just like,
Wow.
my life is bigger than just that. Like I've had people who don't even speak to me and be like, why aren't you married yet? I'm
Wow.
like, hello, my name is Derek. I'm well. How are you? Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, I'm just,
that
you know,
that's that's gotta be irritating.
it can be. And it's interesting because you have this perception that somehow marriage proves your integrity,
Mhm.
Mm,
or it keeps you out of trouble, or it keeps you away
wow.
from certain things. But
That's so
every
true.
scandal I can think of starts with a married somebody,
That's the
especially in
truth,
church.
brother.
Every
No,
scandal
I
I've
know
ever
that's the
heard
truth.
starts with a married minister, male,
Yep,
female,
absolutely.
whatever. So for me, it's just about, proving what I'm there for. I'm there for service. I'm there to be available. In my singleness, I just do my best to live a good life and a good life before God. That's the best I can do. I'm a flawed
That's great,
human
man.
being, and I let people know that, and I take it from there. That's all I can do.
That's great. Crystal, I want to ask you something quickly, because I think it's when I see your life and you're always on the go, from Detroit to Clark, master's degree, mass comm, working for
Mm,
TMZ, on this red carpet, that red carpet, this, that, brand ambassador, your own nonprofit,
yeah,
co-host
you do a
for
lot.
a nationally syndicated radio
Mhm.
show. When in the world do you have time for a relationship? Or are you too busy? I mean, are you? Uh, does your work or your involvement, your activities, present yourself opportunities to meet people? It just seems like you'll be too busy to be caught. Are you on the go all the time? I mean, do you think has that been an issue? Finding men who can
No,
flow seamlessly with your life.
no. Because if you listen to the show, you know your girl want to be married. It's on a
Right.
vacant space. It ain't no secret. Like if you know me, you know this is the goal. If that was the case, I would have just still been in a relationship. But the goal is marriage. So I
Mhm.
make time for what I got to do. Because at the end of the day, I feel like that's your greatest ministry is your home.
Mm,
And so I could be on every red carpet and every radio show, but where is my legacy? I can build this amazing empire of girl plus guy, but who's gonna carry it on? Your girl and some kids. So people know if you listen to me that is the goal. I make it very clear what I want right now because
absolutely.
it's not here. We're gonna utilize the time, but we'll multitask once the family comes along.
So let me ask you this question then. So when you go into, we're talking about dating versus courtship. So what I hear from you, dating, when we talk about the difference between dating, we don't hear courtship. That's a old fogey word, but the concept is relevant. Dating is casual, getting to know people. Courtship is dating with a purpose. It's, I'm at a point in my life. I'm not just out here trying to have fun. fun may be part of the process, but I am looking for a future. I'm not looking. So, but the question I want to ask you is, how much time do you think is necessary before you start to look to marriage? If you're in a relationship with a guy and you're dating him 3 months, because I've heard guys be fearful and intimidated by that. Uh, how soon is it to have that conversation on marriage? How long should that relationship have lasted before you actually think about taking it to the next step? Is there a time period in your estimation, Crystal?
So for me, this is me personally, it's not necessarily about the time in which we get married. It's more so about the vision that we're going to live in. And so
Okay.
I need to be with somebody who has some vision. I need to know that we are going somewhere. So
Okay.
that does not mean we have to get married in a year. It doesn't mean it has to be 2 years. There are still things that I want to do myself. But I need to know that that's the path that you want to go down. I need to know that you would like to be married as well, that you want to have kids as well. Because if you don't, then we have no business doing this together.
Right.
So for me, basically, it's day one. I just need to know that there is a vision. It doesn't have to be you and I get married, but I just want to know that we're on the same page. And I have to throw the ball back to you two gentlemen, because I hear a lot of men say, I was talking to her in 4 hours and I knew she was my wife.
Right.
And so
Right.
how do y'all be knowing, like, this is the one? This is the one I would, don't give me that face. I want to know. I need to
Derek,
know,
you
because I
know,
hear from the men all the time about how long it took. I just want to know, how long does it take for y'all?
that's I've been married so long I forgot. But but
That is an
I'll come back
unfair
and try to answer more.
amount of this question.
Derek, you got ready to the point to marry two people, right? The first one
Right.
ended, the second one she passed away. When did you know? I mean, it's been more recent. So when did you know? What made you think that both of those young beautiful ladies were marriage material?
I thought they were marriage material, and it wasn't immediate. It wasn't like, oh my God, that's it, that's the one right there. Jesus is pointing her out. Holy
Okay.
Ghost, go get her. It wasn't. It wasn't like that. It was more so when I really actually started having long, deep, intimate conversations with these people. It
Yeah.
was a sense of trust. It was a sense of similar vision. It was a sense of we weren't completely the same on everything. And honestly, I really
Right.
didn't want that anyway. I needed some sense of difference
Absolutely.
to kind of help me grow and kind of help push me along. And neither one of them, and they were both very assertive women, by the way. Like they were not the kind that were just going to fall over for you at the drop of a dime. Like they would
Right.
put me on my heels real quick. Like, hold on, Negro, we gotta talk. Right? So, but they were assertive, but they weren't aggressive, if that makes sense.
Okay.
So it was after a
Gotcha.
period of really getting to know them over a process of actually one of them was over a process of a year and a half. We had just been friends for a while. We began to
Okay.
date, and we just began everything began to click on certain cylinders. And we both, like Crystal said, we both kind of had this intention of, yeah, I do want to be married. Yeah, I do want to have kids. Yeah, I see potential for us to go up the long road. And after a while of us really getting to know each other, it was like this makes sense for us. I would be good. On the second instance, when she was getting ready to pass, when she passed away, um, it was 100%. I had known her a long period of time. But we
Okay.
recently reconnect. We lost connection, then we reconnected, and it was like an instant pickup right where we left off because we had already had that friendship in place. And I find for
Gotcha.
me, you need to know me as a human being, not Derek the
Right.
minister, not Derek the dude with the master's degree. You need to know me for me, and can you accept all my different facets like I can accept yours?
Yeah.
For me, it was that sense of she gonna have my back come hell or high water, and I want that in my life. And I
Yeah. My
literally at
situation.
some point couldn't see it without her.
Yeah.
That's great. I guess my situation is really not fair because I met Andre when I was 5. We took piano lessons together
Yeah,
when I
no,
was
Pat.
5. Yeah, yeah. I mean, so it's unfair,
Yeah.
really, because I mean, I my grandfather, her father, and my father all preached together. We were
Wow.
musicians, came up together, the same, community choir stuff. She used to play for me. So when I was 17 preaching, so it's a different kind of, scenario versus you out dating and meeting somebody, you know. But I did know, at 18 that she would be the one I married. But that's just a different kind of story
Wow.
altogether. I've known her my entire life, so that's why I think that's not necessarily the best paradigm to go by, because I've known all my life. So, but I think for me, having somebody, when I got married, my mentality was I knew what my life was, what my call was. I knew what I was supposed to do in terms of ministry, who I was, and she fit that. And even though she was reluctant, didn't want to be a pastor's wife or whatever initially, and she ran from that, I knew that she fit what I needed, and so it made it seamless, and it worked very well, because I knew God sent her in my life to help me to become what I needed to become. So it's a different kind of scenario in that situation. Kanisha, KK, you and Crystal are alike in this regard. I'm kind of hearing a common thread in that this whole fear of commitment with men. Do you think, based on your experiences, that men are fearful of commitment? Is there any grace for any man, or is that just been the whole of your experiences that we're fearful of commitment?
It has not been the whole of my experiences, but it has been something that I've had to deal with. And even thinking about you, talking about you and Sis Andrea, and like even my parents, like you guys were in a totally different time. I think the
Right.
issue
Right.
is that a lot of guys that I meet don't
Thanks.
necessarily.
Just call me old. I appreciate it. Just thank
I love y'all. You know I love y'all. But I don't think that marriage is as valued as it was at one time, and I think because of that, a lot of guys feel like they have the time to kind of wait or just do whatever they want to do, or, you know, focus on their careers or whatever it is that's more valuable to them than the idea of marriage. I have in many situations had to deal with the gray area, the situationships, where a guy is like, I love you. You are like wife material for me. Like I've talked about engagement rings before, like all of these things, but there's no like step in that direction. And being a person who is an executor, if I say I want something, if I'm going to do something, I'm the type of person that I don't think about it. I think about it enough to know that it's the right thing and pray about it, but I'm not going to sit and just dwell and dwell. I'm going to move towards it. And I think that the guys that I have met or who I've been in relationships with have been okay in that gray area, like keeping you close enough to have you when they are ready, but not committing to you when they have you. And it just comes to a point where, as a woman, just like Crystal said, like you have to make that call for yourself. I have done it as well. It's not that you don't love somebody, that they're not what you even see yourself with, but it is like at some point or another, as a unit, we have to start moving together. And if you're moving in one direction and I'm moving in another direction, or you're standing still, that's another thing. Like there's no growth in the relationship. And that's something I want to see. I want to feel the growth happening, like I can, be settled by myself. I don't want to have to feel like I'm moving closer to you in a spiritual way, in an emotional way. Because as a woman, you know what we do. We pray over you. We like you said, she sent you something because she saw it was a part of the vision for your life. Like we're hands on like that. And if I'm that invested and you're sitting over there like, well, I gotta, work on this on the side, it doesn't last very long like that. And it's not fair. Especially because a woman 9 times out of 10 has 3 or 4 other guys somewhere at all times beckoning for her attention, and so you really have to realize that it's a different time. And I just feel like marriage was valued. It was something that was necessary even for women at one point, I think. And we're just in a time where everybody is so free to do whatever they want to do. And they don't see the value in coming together and joining your life with somebody else and leaving a legacy and having children even, or, it's just not something that's valued. So I don't want to like come down on guys like, oh, none of them are ready to commit, because I do know guys that are ready to commit. They just happen to not be the guys that I want to be with.
Girl.
Chris,
It's terrible. This stuff is out here.
Chris, let
Okay.
me ask you this question. Crystal, you with this guy, he's in ministry, and obviously you have fashioned your mind and your perspective that this is a guy that you could have been with, right?
Mm-hmm.
Um, do you think you gave it enough time? Did you have this conversation because you gave him an ultimatum? Was there ever an ultimatum given? Like, bro, I've been with you 18 months. I've been with you a year. I'm getting older. I'm trying to see, you know, is it is it really you valuing and understanding your self-worth that was behind your decision, or is it the pressure, maybe some innate and subconscious pressure that you have on yourself because of other friends, because of what you have in your mind, because you want kids at this age, because you're tired of hearing mother and everybody say when you're gonna have kids? Is it really that you feel he didn't value you? Could it be at all possible that it's just the pressure about based upon this character, this picture you have for your life and your time frame, and he's not adding up to that? So I want to really kind of delve in that to a moment. Is it really you feel he wasn't valuing you? Because you say, I know my worth, and he didn't want to keep on going. I know my worth. So was it really
I
him
didn't
not being
say it
aware of
like
your worth?
that.
So
Okay.
was it really his
uh,
lack of awareness of your worth, or is it some innate or some subconscious pressure based upon this clock you have for yourself? I just want to, I don't hope you understand what I'm trying to say. I'm not trying to. I don't mean any harm. I
yeah,
just want to ask that question.
absolutely. So I would say that I do believe that he definitely valued me. He is a very good
Right.
guy, but it was a bad
Okay.
relationship.
Okay.
So now let's
Okay.
be very clear. I am an advocate for God and therapy. And so I have
Yeah.
been walking
Okay.
that thing out with a therapist. We've gone to see a counselor because I also believe in pre engagement counseling. So we've had somebody
Indeed.
that we've talked to together to say, okay, here's where we are. I've healed in a lot of
Okay.
areas. I believe that if I would have gotten married, and I say this publicly all the time, if I would have gotten married before today, I probably would have ruined it because I was still walking around with some traumas and some things from my childhood that were unresolved that I needed to deal with a professional. And so I am
Gotcha.
so grateful that I was able to do that with this man. But I do believe
That's
he may
awesome.
have just been to help me prepare for possibly that next person because his mindset is one place. He is focused on what he's
Gotcha.
focused on. And for me, I mean, the reality is I'm 32, so I don't
Okay.
have that much longer. Like, I mean,
Are you
we can
kidding?
say
Are
what you
you
want to say,
kidding
but
me? Are you
Woo!
really
I mean,
are you
I
really
don't want to
serious?
be.
That's a
I don't.
whole other.
Yeah, I mean, it is just the
Yeah.
reality. Like my friends' kids are gonna be watching my kids. Like it just
Same.
is what it is.
Same.
So there
She
has to be
waves.
some type of vision happening. Like I have to know, and I have given it time to say, I understand we don't have to be married right now, but there has to be some type of vision casting. We got to know where we're going. That's just one part of it, though. The relationship was still bad because his focus was more on ministry. I'm not even going to go there because I got two ministers here today, two preachers of the
No,
gospel.
Yeah.
no,
So
no,
that's
no.
a whole. We can take a whole
I'm
nother
not gonna
hour
So
on
judge.
that.
I ain't gonna judge
so
that.
was the relationship bad? Does that mean it was unhealthy? Or does that mean you just were at different places? Because you say it was bad. I mean, because I can hear your hurt, and you, and to me, I don't think based upon, and I don't know you very well, but the way you presented, the way I hear, and the way your spirit, the things I discern, you wouldn't waste a lot of time in something that was unhealthy at this moment. You wouldn't, if that was no potential with you right now. I don't see you investing a lot of time in something that was unhealthy or bad, as you say. You know what I mean?
But
What makes a relationship bad?
it looked good. It
Okay,
looked good, right?
okay,
So it
I
fits.
got,
In there.
I
And
got you,
who wants to have to get back on the radio and you work with three married men and I got to still be the single one? Who wants to
I got you.
continue to, though I love this forum, I don't want to be the single representative forever. People
Mm.
I
automatically,
got you.
they have a single summit, single and waiting, they calling me. I'm like, I don't,
Yeah.
you know? So if we're gonna be real about it, I mean, there are parts of being single that I love. I don't have to be here quarantined and homeschooling kids. Not that I don't, want to have children, but I get to do what I want. I can nap when I want. I can do the show when I want. I can, or not when I want, but I can live my life
Right.
freely. But the other part of
Right.
that is I don't want to be single. I would love to be married. And so I gave that time. We tried with a counselor. We tried to do those things. And when I seen, okay, you're not moving in this direction with me, and complete transparency, I lost my grandfather. And when I saw that there were things that weren't being done in that moment when I needed that person, I was like, I can't do
Gotcha.
this anymore. And death will show you that
Yeah.
sometime. Like, I can't do this with
Indeed.
you because you're never going to show up for me.
Right.
I got you. Well, let me just say this: 32 is not old. You're not a granny somewhere with Noxzema on your face and flannel pajamas with house shoes on, waiting to kick the bucket. So let me just say
I
that.
mean,
You
I
know, I
get
mean,
that, but it's like, can me and the husband have some time to kick it before we had a
Before we
kid?
have
But
kids.
it's
That's
like, come on.
I got you.
Yeah.
I got you, Derek. You've heard from Crystal and Kanisha in terms of some of their frustrations with men and some of their concerns with men. And we've heard some great superlatives in terms of you with the last young lady who passed away. What are some of your challenges that you had in dating with young ladies? What are some of the issues that you face? I want to hear from your perspective. That you've not yet gone across that threshold because of death and one relationship won't arrive. But what are some of the challenges that you had with young ladies in dating? I want to hear from you from that perspective, and then we wrap this
Yes,
thing up.
Derek. What are those challenges?
Okay. First off, let me say this. First of all, Crystal Lee, I admire you for going to counseling, right? For getting those things
Indeed.
together and being able to admit, like, look, if I got married earlier, it wouldn't even have worked. And that takes a lot of strength to do. So I really appreciate that. I appreciate that transparency. So thank you for that. Um, One of the challenges that I have personally in this dating realm is that I have come across a lot of women who were not as forward thinking as you, to go deal with that trauma before they got to me. So there's very few things I find insulting. It's kind of hard to insult me. I don't really get upset about a whole lot. But when you tell me you prayed for me, right, a man like me, then you get me and have no idea what to do with me, I get frustrated.
Wow. Wow.
Right? I've had women be like, "Oh, I prayed for a man who don't spend all day in the club, who ain't always drunk, who ain't always smoking, blah 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 blah." And I'm like, "Cool, like this is great." For a second, I'm real happy, and then at some point in the relationship, I've had them admit to me they have no idea what to do with me because they prayed
Wow.
for me but didn't prepare for me.
come on now.
So
Wow.
they're still in the club, they're still smoking, they're still drinking, but they want me to not. Right? Like, or I've had women date me exclusively because they want me to be around their kid because I'm a
Mm.
good role model or whatever the case may be. I've had women like me because they saw me speak somewhere and they're like, oh, he's gifted or he's this or he's that. But they like my ministry. They like whatever it is I do for them. But they're always in the position of receiving from me, but they can't give anything back to me. Because if I'm walking with a gallon, but you walking with 12 ounces, we can't help each other.
Wow.
So, and a lot
That's
of
good.
times I find myself having to wrestle with whoever the guy was that came before me. Because Keiki is right,
Yes.
100%. Marriage is not something among males or females that is predominant, the predominant thought anymore. If we can have bay, if we can have situationship, if we can have a gray area, um, I've had women try and hit and quit me. I done had women who just all types, like, you know what I'm saying? So I'm
Wow.
looking out like, okay, what is she really about? Like, I'm not quick to call everybody my girl or my lady because I don't know
Right.
where they're at. And until we get to know
Wow.
each other, I don't even trust myself to be in a relationship with you. So when
Wow.
it comes to dating challenges, and then, I'm 37 at this point, and a lot of women are balancing multiple things. And I've met women who are like, look, I'm focused on my career and my kid right now. Like,
Right.
there's challenges there on my end as far as time being made because yeah, I think it's great that you're willing to make the time, but the other person has to be satisfied with the amount of time you're able to make. Because you
Wow.
may make time for me, but if it's only 30 minutes and I don't see you for multiple days during the week, Well, what is a relationship if you don't have time? Right?
That's
And
deep.
if we get in an argument and you still cursing at me for some stuff that I ain't even done yet because you processing what you did through your ex, I'm gonna get tired of that real quick. I'm not even gonna lie. Like
Wow.
that wears me out real fast.
Yeah. Let me I want to ask two questions to Crystal and Kanisha, and I want you guys can kind of jump in. Two things I want to ask you. Do you think that some of the difficulties you've had, is it just a metro Atlanta thing? Do you think this is a nationwide thing? The second question I want to ask that I'm having a lot of conversations about, or probably over the last year, I want to get your perspective on it. What are your thoughts on dating outside of your race? So two things. Is it just an Atlanta thing where you think we're having this deficiency and a lack of strong men who are serving committed? Number two, have you? What are your thoughts in terms of African American women dating outside of their race or their ethnicity? So you both can jump in as you feel led.
Well, I will say that the guy that's getting most of my attention now, and he's gonna he's gonna love that. Uh, he doesn't live here. He's not from here. So
Okay,
actually, we met years and years and years ago, and he was very persistent in trying to date me. And I recently looked his way, and he doesn't live here. So my experience with dating him has been very different from my experiences, with men here in Atlanta. I know that there's this whole thing about there being so many of us and so little of them, even on the AUC, which I think is really cool because we're AUC in here.
right,
That's the thing. There's so many women and like no men, right? But the reality is this is something that I'm seeing across the board. It's not just here in Atlanta. I have girlfriends all over the world, and we have these conversations all of the time. And as far as dating outside of my race, that's tricky because I grew up in a predominantly white town. I never dated outside of my race growing up all through high school, and I got to Atlanta and met a guy and I dated him. And my sister was like, "You waited till you got to Atlanta." Like
The black
say
Mecca.
yes. And I hope he doesn't watch this, or I hope he doesn't get offended. But I realized in that relationship that it was just odd, and it was like physically just different for me. It was culturally different, and
right,
it's not something that I'm looking out to do, but it's not something that I'm completely against. I don't judge people when I see them. I do know people
right,
who are like that. Who are
right,
like, oh my God, like, why is he with her or why is she with him? I'm not that person,
right.
but I definitely love a good black man. Like, that's my
Gotcha.
preference. So
Right,
those are my
gotcha.
experiences.
What about you, Crystal? Is the dating scene you think difficult just here in Atlanta, and the dating outside of your race? Your thoughts on both those things?
So I would have to agree because this last relationship, this person didn't live in Atlanta. And a
Wow,
part of that too, I found during counseling was I would prefer people that didn't live here because I like long distance relationships. So that's still something
really?
we walking through. Because I
Wow.
kind of had
So,
this roommate situation with my parents. And so I'm used to my space. And so for me, it was easier to have a relationship. And it's like, all right, you over there. I know you okay. I'm busy, like, like we said. So, we'll check in and I'll come back. So I really don't even subscribe to the Atlanta dating scene is bad because I'm not really on the scene. And to be honest,
okay,
I'm open to somebody living anywhere. As far as
okay.
dating outside of my race, I have never done it, and I don't know if I would say I'm open to it. I used to joke all the time and say, if this relationship don't work out, I'm about to get a white man. But now that the relationship did not work
I
out,
heard
I'm
that
not
one
sure how
I
I
think
feel
you
about
before.
it
want to
right
say that.
now. Because I mean, if you look at all the shows and all the people who they like, Cassie left Diddy and now she got her a white man and they didn't got married and this new show Love Is Blind and everybody loves the interracial couple and so it does make you be like, okay, maybe I need me a white man. I would prefer to bring a black man home. I'm not gonna lie, but I don't know. I don't know. I'm gonna
Yeah.
just say a black man for now. We gonna pray that the Lord will send a good black
Uh,
man.
it's just a question. I want to get your take on it. You know, so Let me ask you a question, Crystal. Particularly, especially you, and I want to get all of your perspective on it. You said you're ready to be married now. You don't want to be single. And my question would be this: how did you know, or when did you know that you were ready to be married? Because what you just said almost seems kind of contradictory in that you enjoy long distance relationships. That feels good right now, but at some point you got to be able to move. When you get married, you can't have a long distance relationship with them living down the street and you live here. So at some point that space is going to be violated, I guess, for lack of a better term. So what, as a woman, when do you know you're ready to be a wife and a mother? When do you know you've experienced enough, you're ready to settle down? What does ready look like to you? And I also want to hear it from you, Kanisha, as well. What does being ready to be a wife look like?
So I'm really glad that you asked me that because in this situation, the setup that we kind of talked about that my counselor had was a plan for an untraditional marriage. It
Okay.
was you will live there and he will live there. And
Okay.
so, I was like, cool, that's great. So, to be honest with you, that is still something that I'm realistically going to have to walk out. You know, I love being with that person because I did love my space. But I recognized that that wasn't the best situation. So now I got to deal with, all right, so you might meet somebody that's like, no, girl, we got to live together. So that's some more counseling that has to happen because I think that the older we get, so you've been married for so long, the older we get, the more used to your space you become. So to
Indeed.
live by yourself for so long and then you
Yeah.
have to merge your life with somebody in your 30s, now it's like, all right, come on. So I was all the way down with the untraditional marriage. I love the plan. I was like, you know what, Lord, you know me so well that you got this situation for me. And it didn't work out like that. So now we're gonna go back to the drawing board and say, all right,
Okay,
Lord,
Lord.
so we're gonna have to prepare to now live with somebody. And so, yes, I'm so glad you asked me that. That is now I have to be in preparation season. I have to be in a season to say, all right, so that relationship didn't work. You have to think about now the realities of really getting ready to live with somebody to really slow your life down because there will be somebody who, like Derek said, that wants to spend time with you. You can't always be gone. So, something I got to work through.
So let me ask you this: do you want to be a wife equally as much as you want to be a mother?
Uh, I want to be a wife now, and I want to be a mother in like 2 years, a lot. 2 years later.
Okay. Okay.
So right now, I'm like, I want to have fun with a mate. So now we all stuck at home, right? You're by yourself, and you're like, all right, it's just me. So
Mhm.
it's great to have somebody to share, your time with. It's great to have somebody to cheer you on and to come show up for you when you speak and
Right.
to cast vision with and to just live your life with, create a life with somebody. I absolutely want kids. I would say I was with my niece this week, and I was like, Lord, maybe I'm not about to throw her out the house. So I absolutely want to be a mother, but I know that I still will have to adjust my life because I am very busy. So
Wow.
there's some adjusting that needs to happen in both areas. So I still got work to do. That's why I still got the counseling.
Yeah, that's not a bad thing. So, Kanisha, what is because we talk about men are ready to be married, and but I wanted to know what does being ready to be married look like for you as a wife? How do you know you're ready? What what
Well, let
what
me just
constitutes?
let me just say I'm not ready. um, that's where me and sis.
No.
So that's where sis and I we are on two different planes with that. Part of the reason I am not married today, I believe very strongly, is I'm not a woman that will push or pull for someone to be with me. I don't have the fight, right? Um, and that's my personality just in general. And Pastor, you know me very well. So it's just my personality type. If things get kind of off or gray or it feels unhealthy or not right for me anymore, I'm the type of woman that's just gonna be like, you know what? Okay, bye. I don't have the fight.
Right.
And I think, if I'm being transparent, the guy that I'm with now, dating now, is the first time that I really have had the fight. Not the fight for marriage, because I'm not ready for marriage, because I'm not dating anybody on a level that puts us in a situation to even be headed towards marriage. Do you know what I mean? I feel like it's a feeling, like a settling. That's how I think about marriage. Two people meet each other and something in their souls settle in and say, you know what, this is home. This makes sense. We're going in the right direction together. And I don't really have that. And it's so funny because I feel like my girlfriends, all my Spelman sisters, we're in a WhatsApp chat. And this whole week, that's what it's been. Okay, Kanisha, when are we getting married? What do we, there's everybody's so ready for it. And I'm sitting here like, I don't know. I don't know if I can give y'all that answer because that's not something I think about. And even with my dad being gone, it's something if I'm honest, I think about even less because of the trigger of that day without him. So
Wow.
I don't
Yeah.
I don't really I don't really feel like I'm ready for marriage right now. I think that would come with meeting the right person, that knowing of
Gotcha.
being ready to come with that. Um, what it I'm sorry, the next question was how do I know if a man is ready or what
No,
is
no.
it like
I just want what it look like for you. Let me hit something that I want to come back to with you, Kanisha. And I'll come back to you, Chris,
okay.
in a moment too, because I got some more meat on that bone. But with you, Chris, Kanisha, you mentioned something about the guy that you're dating now. He in the past wanted to date you. He was aggressive in pursuing you in the past, but but you didn't. But you obviously you didn't reciprocate, and then later on, now it's come back again. So my question will be to you is what made you not be more open to him the first time he came?
I was probably crazy. Um,
Okay.
you
Good
have
answer.
moments of like your mind checks
That's
out.
real.
And
That's real though.
very well.
That's real.
I'm serious. When I
That's real.
reunited with him, I mean, this is something. I mean, I have the messages, the Facebook messages. Like, I'll come, let me come into town and take you to dinner. Like all of these things. And the reality is, as I said um, earlier, I was so sidetracked with other guys in like situationships or on and off, and he didn't live here, so it's not like he could, take me out every weekend. Um, I was crazy, I think. When I saw him in the flesh the first time a few years ago, I was like, is something wrong with me? Like, is something wrong with me? Like, all these people love me. Nobody told me that something is wrong, because me now, had I walked on me, he's physically like perfection for me and in the way that he looks, and he's just a great guy. And I carry a lot of guilt. I bring it up all of the time, and he's like, it just wasn't the time. We just weren't ready. It just wasn't the time. And he was persistent. I mean, from like '09, I have all the messages year after year after year after year.
Wow.
And one day I just responded to one, in 2018, and it happened to be while I was going through so much with my dad. And it's just amazing. Another reason I also enjoy a long distance relationship is because we had to talk,
Yep.
right? We had to get to know each other. We didn't have any distractions of like being around each other physically and, all these things. We literally spent so much time on the phone just getting to know one another. And he was able to really be a great support system for me, in the hardest time of my life without physically being here all the time.
Gotcha.
So I was just distracted, and
Gotcha.
it wasn't time. I think
Derek,
the timing has.
Derek, what does being ready to be married look like for you, sir?
I think Keiki makes a great point. Sometimes time makes a huge, huge difference on where you are at as far as mature wise, as far as where you are spiritually. Um, being ready for marriage for me, um, it very much depends on the being able to meet the person who's willing to grow with me. I realized for myself that meeting someone whom, for me, trust is a huge deal. And it also makes a huge difference in how much I'm willing to invest in you. The more I trust in you, the more I'm willing to pour out. The more you're going to reciprocate. And for me, every time I was ready to be married to somebody, I noticed there was a huge level of reciprocity and trust built. You know what I mean? It was intentional. So for me, it's being and then recognizing as well that I got my own baggage. She had her baggage. Are we willing to unpack this with each other as we move forward? And at a certain point, when my answer becomes yes, it's like okay, we both gonna grow. I had the privilege of being under people who were already married and being able to study their marriages. And one thing they told me is marriage is not for a lazy man. Don't get married and think you about to go sit up in the house. That's not gonna happen. If you're trying to be a good
Right.
husband, you need to be ready to hit the ground running. And so,
Absolutely.
for me, it was a lot about my mindset. It was a lot about, what I was willing to really invest in this. Um, and I'm glad to a certain degree, and that's the reason why I think Crystal's comment chimes so much with me, is because, like Keiki said, I went through a long season where I was working full time, I was in full time school, I was, trying to get to church as much as I could. I'm exhausted all the time, I'm moody. I may have been a horrible husband during that time. You know what I'm saying? Like,
Right. Right.
but you know what I'm saying? Like, and I've had people
Right.
come back and tell me, you're a good dude, but you were super moody for the past, something was, you knew something was a little off. And I'm just like,
Right. Right.
I'm so sorry. I apologize. All I can do is I'm sorry. But having, come through all that and being at a space that I'm in now, I realized that I had become comfortable, Crystal, with being by myself, being in my space, being on my own. And I was talking to God one day, and I realized that God was like, "No, I didn't build you that way. I built you a certain kind of way, but I realized that God opened up a space for me that only a wife can fill.
Wow.
So it's not something that I can fill on my own, and God was very intentional with that.
That's good.
So right now it's about working on myself to the point where when I come across my wife, I'm not dragging my baggage from previous relationships, from parents, from childhood, from whatever, so that I'm a fruitful husband. Because that's one of my personal fears is being a boring, unfruitful husband whose wife steps outside somewhere because she don't want to leave the marriage, but she don't want to stay with him either. Like
My
it's
God.
I've seen
Yeah.
that. So it's a mindset
Yeah. Let,
and a
I
spiritual
want to
blessing.
shift. I want to pivot. As we get ready to bring it to a close. I hate to be the bearer of bad news, but I just want to ask a very real question. I've been doing some research. In terms of what ministry looks like in the 21st century and this decade. And one of the statistics that's been very alarming that I've come across, I want to start with Crystal and you, Keiki, is this is a stat that it's been very alarming, but I just want to delve into it because I think it's real. And the data suggests that by the year 2025 in the city of Atlanta, 60% of African American women will not be married, will not ever marry in 5 years. 60% of African American women will not ever marry. So that creates a quandary for me as a preacher. I've got to be very real because, we've always preached, he that finds a wife finds a good thing. And slow down, lady, your Boaz is coming to get you, but for 6 out of 10 women in 5 years, Boaz ain't coming.
Mm-mm, he
For
ain't coming.
6 out of 10 women in 5 years, they're not going to be found. He that finds a wife finds a good thing. So that creates a challenge for me theologically in terms of our perspectives and what happened in the Bible when you didn't have mass incarcerations to this degree. You didn't have crack to this degree. You didn't have, the levels of terms of the ratio of men and women was not the same. You had in some cultures where polygamy was socially tolerable. So to try to to parallel or see apples and apples in the ratios of men and women in the first century in Rome versus 21st century in Atlanta and make those distinctions with that symmetry being between both is difficult. And so if 6 out of 10 women won't be married African American in 5 years, but yet the church tells them you can't get married, you can't You can't have nobody touching on you. You can't touch yourself. You can't do whatever. What does that look like in terms of uh, what's the message that we're going to proclaim? What do we say to the women who won't get married? I believe both of you are going to be married because I just know you're phenomenal women, and I believe God's going to give you both the desires of your heart when you're ready for it. And when He's ready for it. May not be on your time schedule, Miss Crystal Lee. May not be, when you get pregnant at 35 and a half, when you get pregnant at 2 o'clock in the morning after you just drank some water. So it may not be on that schedule. Uh, where you have the baby exactly 48 months and 9 minutes after you got married. It may not be to that degree, but I believe it's gonna happen in God's timing. But what do you say to the women in 5 years, African American, who won't get married here in the city? What is your message to them? What do we say? What do I say as a preacher in 5 years? What does the church offer in that kind of context? I just want to hear from you.
I think that these type of forums are necessary for that. This is what we say. We stay open and transparent about the realities of dating right now. Instead of saying those Christianese terms like your Boaz is coming and your this and that. I never do that. You're not gonna catch me saying that on the radio. You're not gonna catch me showing up to somebody's church saying that because I don't know what God has for everybody. I don't know what God has for me yet. So the only thing that I can do is pray and prepare, and that's what I give to women. So if you are saying that you want to be a wife, then you need to show up and start doing some things. And I'm not telling you to go do some things for a man to be his wife. I'm telling you that there's some preparation that needs to happen. So for me, that is counseling. For me, that is, girl, get your butt in the kitchen and start cooking. Because I'm so busy, I'll go grab something. And I had one of my therapists who was like, no, girl, you better start cooking because your king may require that. And so it's just about proper preparation. It's just about you walking in your purpose and you not waiting around for a man to do some things. That means that if God is calling you to go to some new levels, then you need to do that. If you want to buy that house, go buy that house. If you want to go on those vacations, you go on those vacations. You don't sit and wait around. You live your life. And I believe that God will meet you, at your expectations. So for me, I tell women to live your life because that's what I'm doing. As someone who does desire to be married, I'm going to live my life. I'm going to prepare. I'm going to continue to stay in therapy and get counseling and become better. I know that there are only some things that I'm going to be able to get better in once I'm in a marriage. There's only so much preparing you can do because you got to actually be with the person to, learn and grow them and all that good stuff. But I'm not lying to anybody because those stats are real. So I can't tell you if Boaz is coming. Because first of all, Boaz already taken. That's a whole nother conversation. I don't want Boaz, okay?
Right. Indeed. KK, what does that look like to you? What's your message to the women in 5 years in this city who 6% won't be married? What is your message? What's your message to them, and what's your message to the church?
Well, like I said earlier, I'm not in a space where I absolutely have to be married. I do think there's a part of me that wants it, but it's not something that's like pressing upon me. And I just turned 34. So I've had a beautiful life so far. I bought my own home. My car's good. I take care of myself. I have freedom. I can do what I want. And I think there has to be a shift in the way that we raise our children, because we do oftentimes raise women to the expectation of marriage. Right. And we don't always put that same kind of thing onto our sons. So what ends up happening is I become the 34-year-old woman that I am, and Crystal is in her shoes, and the overwhelming population of women are one way and the overwhelming population of men are another way. So I would just say that, you are not, I think it was you, Pastor, who preached a sermon about, how we look down upon people in the church who aren't married. And we teach them that they should be married. We ask them when they're going. It was you. It was this year, earlier this year. And that really blessed me because you do have that feedback from the church as a whole. If those women who will be in that 60% will kind of feel a certain way when they walk in and they're not married. But the reality is, you are whole in the cross. You are whole in Christ. You are, you have a beautiful life that you can live. You can be purposeful. And if marriage is what is in your cards, I know some people ain't gonna like that, but if marriage is what is to come for you, then that will be a beautiful thing once it gets here. But it is not something that defines you. I struggle probably more with the idea of having children than I do of marriage. I don't want to have children outside of marriage, but I absolutely want children. So that's something I tell myself every day. That is not something that defines you as a person. When God made you, he did not make you and say, this has to happen or else. He made me and said, this is who she is. This is what you would do. Be purposeful in the world, love people, help people, shine my light. And if I can have a partner to do that with, that's a plus, So we just have to change the way that we teach children, so that once we have all these churches that do these like purification things, which I'm not wholly invested in or believing in, but I'm serious. We take our daughters and we teach them, save yourself to marriage, don't do this. And what happens on a psychological level is they put so much value in that thing, right? In that one thing, and everything else, it takes a back seat. So you have all this underdevelopment that's happening. These girls who are sexually active before they're ready, or who get to the point of marriage and don't know how to please themselves or what they like or anything, because it's tainted in a way. But we don't teach our boys to sanctify their bodies and to keep themselves. I've never seen anything about a church taking boys to the side and saying, hey, you are precious. Hey, don't give yourself to everybody. Hey, like a whole conference or whatever that happens for the girls. I've never seen that. And so I think two things that the church can do is following your footsteps, Pastor Bro, and just like stop this idea that if you're not married at a certain age, something's wrong with you. And the second thing is start with, our babies, teaching both boys and girls, the value of marriage. I don't know how we would do that. That's not my thing. But instead of making it a one-sided kind of thing so that there are 60% women, we have to start younger with shifting what it means to be purposeful in the world, and what it means to show up as a woman or as a man. So there are a lot of different things.
I just want to thank y'all so much. We're ready to close out. We held you guys a little too long, but thank you so much. We're going to come back. And really, the singles group is so broad because we have some like under 40, over 40, people who've been divorced before with kids and dating again. So we're going to come back next week with the whole show just for that group. We're going to have two different conversations next week because looks like we're going to be locked in for a while. So we're going to be continuing these conversations. I hope to have you both back on. One for those who are younger, getting married for the first time, and one for maybe those who are single over 40 and those divorcees. So I want to thank you for being here, praying for both of you, for everybody, because we got to pray. All got to pray. We're all in some kind of situation, and we need prayer. Derek, I want you to close out with a word of prayer, just praying for those who are watching, and words of encouragement and a final prayer. And guys, we're going to come back with this Singles in the City Forum next week. We have one for of course, for those who are under 40 and over 40. So stay tuned. It's coming. Crystal, thank you for what you're doing. Tell us about how we can find you, Crystal, and your business. Then Kiki will do the same with you, your business, talk about your business and your social media handles. And then Derek, you close out with prayer. So Crystal, would you give us your business, social media handles, and how we can follow you?
Yes, absolutely. So you can follow my personal page. It's I am Crystal Lee. And Crystal is Krystal, and then it's Lee. And then you can follow my business, which is Girl Plus God, and it's Girl Plus spelled out God, and then it's underscore on Instagram.
Thanks so much. You're amazing, Kiki.
My personal handle is Kayki Speaks. That's Kayki, and the word speaks, SPEAKS. Excuse me. My business is Know Your Saints. It is costume, jewelry, and apparel in honor of your saints and soulmates. So that is at Know Your Saints at KNOWYOURSAINTS.
All right, Derek, you give us your closing remarks. If you got a social media handle that you want to share, and then close out with prayer.
Got you. First of all, ladies, thank you so much for being with us in this forum. I hope everybody gets a chance to check out Girl Plus God. And also, Kay, can you tell me your business handle again?
Know your saint.
No, you're a saint.
Know your saint. So thank you for being here. Y'all can find me at DB Authentic on Instagram, and that's pretty much the easiest way to find me. Other than that, I really hope everybody watching is able to take this time while we're indoors to be able to do some of the things these women have done that I'm aspiring to do, that our pastor often encourages, which is work on ourselves and spend time with God and really understand where we're trying to go. And that makes a huge difference in who we attract, who we look for, and what we're trying to do with our lives. So let's take a moment to be able to go ahead and go to our God in prayer. Awesome and benevolent God, thank you for this moment. Thank you for giving us another day where we might be able to bask in your grace and your mercy. God, though we're indoors, we know you're the God of indoors, you're the God of outside, you're the God in the church, and you're the God at home. So we thank you for being with us in this space. God, as we try to minister to those online, let them find some solace, let them find some wisdom. And as we continue to move forward in your name and in your grace, God, reach everybody where they're at. There's no one like you, Holy Ghost. There's no one like you, Jesus. There's no one like you, Father God. So, God, reach through this computer screen and reach them right where they're at, God. And as we move forward, let us continue to minister to those who need you, who need to find you, and who need to be found by you. We thank you and we bless you. Keep us all now in your grace and your mercy. Nowhere can we go without your sight, and nowhere we can go where we are without your love. Remind us of that every day. In Jesus' name we pray. Amen.
Hey, everybody,
Amen.
be encouraged. Those who are watching, hey, God's got you. Hey, you may be isolated. Aloneness is one thing, but we're really never alone. So if you're married, single, divorced, or it's complicated, God is with you wherever you are. Be encouraged. This too shall pass. It's going to be normal in a minute. We'll find a new normal. You get out of the house and you can breathe again. Hang in there. God's got you. It's going to work out for God's glory and for your good. Be encouraged. Join us back here next Tuesday. We're going to be doing another segment for Single in the City. And for those under 40 and over 40, hopefully we can get these guests back on real soon as well while we're all quarantined. I love y'all. Peace. Always remember this. If you'll be good to God, then God will be good to you. Until we meet again, peace. Take care. It's going to pass. We're going to be
Bye.
all right. Peace.